Morning. Today, I wish to introduce to you a man of eminence whose contributions in the field of cognitive psychology still remains unsurpassed. He has no parallel in the history of human research. He shone like a pole star in the firmament of psychology. The bespectacled, pipe-smoking, good old man of Geneva called Piaget. Piaget. It is pronounced as Piaget. He showed the signs of promises since his childhood. Beyond the classicals, he would wander in the forest to study birds, particularly sparrows, just like our great ornithologist Salim Ali, only to bring out an illuminating paper towards the end that he sends for a district level competition. Despite the fact that he was hardly 10 years old and the competition being kept open for seniors as well, his paper was adjudged as the best one, outstanding one. Precisely 4 years later, he again created history. This time, he was selected for an investigation of an organism known as mollusca. He shifted a few of these organisms from fresh water to lake water, and he observed the emergence of some structural modifications in the organism as a kind of adaptation to the environment due to the transition from still waters to the wavy motion waters. This observation set him thinking to conjecture an analogy in the modification of human thought process. He was perhaps too young to foresee its future implications. He submitted it for a national level competition and got first grades, and was also awarded with a national fellowship for further studies. At the age of 21, he came out of the University of Geneva with a doctorate degree in zoology. Amazingly, Piaget chose to join Freud's Psychoanalytic Institute at Vienna to learn the techniques of psychoanalysis. As I told you earlier, Freud established many psychoanalytic institutes across the Europe, and Piaget joined at Vienna to learn the techniques of psychoanalysis. But it could not hold him beyond a year. He shifted to Paris to learn how to administer and interpret intelligent tests at the institute founded by Alfred Binet. He wanted to master the techniques of administering intelligent tests and computing IQ, intelligence quotient. He kept wondering why a child found it very difficult to answer some test items while young, but could easily do it at an advanced stage at a later stage. He wanted to know what makes an individual know what he comes to know. This led him to embark on a lifelong quest known as genetic epistemology, which means origin and growth of knowledge. How does knowledge originate in human beings? How does it develop? Are there distinct stages of cognitive development? Is it possible to quicken the pace of cognitive development? Would it be beneficial to the child, or would it be harmful to the child if we quicken the pace of cognitive development? Does it have a bearing upon child upbringing? Is it relevant to curriculum framing? Piaget was obsessed with these kinds of queries, and his search for answers resulted in a theory of cognitive development. Beyond the Atlantic and the Statue of Liberty at New York Harbor, American psychologists at Harvard University and other universities were sharpening and perfecting their instruments of mental testing on the grindstone of research methodology and statistics. For them, study confined to a very limited sample carried little credibility, as its predictive validity was rather poor. Unmindful, perhaps unaware of the obsessions of the American psychologist, Piaget in Geneva quietly pursued his naturalistic observation of his own three kids, Jacqueline, Lucina, and Laurent, to unravel the secrets of cognitive development. His studies were intensive, intuitive and longitudinal, and was confined to a very limited sample. He had no intention of selling his ideas in the American market, and he seldom bothered to translate his work from French to English. For more than a quarter century, Americans did not realize the existence of such a genius beyond the Atlantic in the tiny country of Switzerland. Later, Piaget's ideas inundated American psychology far beyond the old man's expectations. Ignorance of Piaget would now mean in America ignorance of psychology. Now, what had he done to deserve such name and fame? It is nothing but his theory of cognitive development. That theory in detail will be discussed in the next class.